Hello, my name's Jerry Ludlow, and today we're going to be painting a watercolour of a vase of flowers, and I'll be taking you through the whole process of how I go about painting it. This is the photograph of the vase of white flowers, and I'm going to improve the background and the table to make the painting have more impact. Here's the palette that I use. It's a John Pike Big Well palette, and the colours that I use from the left are sepia, Payne's grey, French ultramarine, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, cobalt turquoise, neutral tint, and then light red, raw umber, burnt sienna, raw sienna, quinacridone gold. Then on the right hand side, hooker's green, sap green, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, opera rose, cadmium red, jaune brilliant, and lavender. And with this painting I'll be using white gouache. On with the drawing. Now I'm using Fabriano paper, which is £140 knot, and it's a fairly smooth paper, which is ideal for painting subjects where the lines need to be a little bit more precise, like flowers, that kind of thing. And although I'm primarily a landscape painter, I do like to do other subjects as well, especially flowers, because I find it such a challenge to try and get it right, because they don't all work out. Now I'm starting with the vase itself, and then putting the flower heads in, just trying to get the shapes right. And just give myself an idea of the stems. It's quite a nice subject, this. As I said, I'm going to be changing it a little bit from the photograph. I've done a few of these kind of paintings with a vase of flowers, and invariably they're on a table, which I'll draw a table in a minute. And I'm also going to put a window on the right hand side, so the light will be coming from that and casting the shadows from the vase to the left. Trying to be quite precise with these flower shapes. Just getting the vase so it's correct proportions. Once I've got all the flowers and the stems in, I'll start on the background. But very simple drawing. A lot of what I'm going to be doing is going to be done directly with the brush. And keeping the pencil marks fairly light, as I shall be rubbing out some of those that that show a bit later on, especially where the white flowers are. These are just a good guide for me to go around with my with the dark paint. Just putting in the shadow of where it should be with the window to the right hand side. It's going to be a kind of a Georgian window. Not going to make too much of it, but it'll be obvious it's a window. I'll be working a little bit slower than I normally do in my landscapes. You'll see why in a minute. I'll try to be a bit more precise going around the flowers with washes. Ready for the paint now. Now I'm using a 1/4 inch flat brush for this, which I quite like to use. Get a nice straight edge on it. And I'm going to wet the paper first. I'm going to be using a lot of water. Nice wet dark washes going on in a minute. Keeping the table dry, nice edge on it, and making sure that I don't go over any of the flowers with the water. So when I put the paint on, the colour will just flow up to the edges. Well, that's the plan anyway. Gives me a bit more time to work with going around the flowers with the wash. Very, very strong wash here. Only a little bit of water, and going to be going in with the blues and greys. This is Payne's grey. Making use of these sharp edges on the brush to go around these flower shapes. Really enjoy it when I see the watercolour flowing, like on the left hand side there. It's only a little bit controllable, and you kind of hope for the best. Making that as dark as I can. It's going to dry a little bit lighter. Add in more paint. mostly Payne's grey. Now going in with French ultramarine, neat. Get some lovely darks in there. Trying to make that line accurate where the table is. Now coming away from the really deep colours around the flowers and varying the wash now with, still using the blues but more water. And this will just kind of blend in, not making too much fuss with it. Working my way along the blues. This has got cobalt blue now. Still using a big brush. It's coming up to the edge of the window frame, so trying to keep that fairly straight. And now I'm going to put some green on the lower part of the bunch of flowers, as the light will be reflecting off of the off all the green stems onto the wall, and it breaks up the blue as well. I'm putting some warm colours in now, light red, which goes well with the green. Just going to re-wet this bit under the window as it's dried. As it dried out a little bit. Going in with some cold colours now next to the warm. This is cerulean blue and light red. It's just really a case of trying to make some interesting marks and varying the colours. I'm going to make this vase with a slight green colour to it. Very watery paint, making sure it runs into the shadow. Nice dark colours for the shadow of the vase and the flowers. And really gives some impact when they dry. Still use the big brush. Possible to get some quite nice marks with it. You can see I'm doing the shadows of the flowers there. Nice sharp point on it. Not a very expensive brush, this one. It's one that I've had for quite a long time. Just varying the shadow colours to make it a bit interesting and getting lighter as it moves away from the stem, the base of the vase. Just keeping that edge of the vase nice and clean with a little bit of water. There are other ways you could approach this painting with this wash going on around the flowers. I mean, you could use masking fluid here and there if you're not particularly confident in going around them, and then let the wash dry and take that off afterwards, which is something I do sometimes. But it takes a while for the masking fluid to dry. And I'm a little bit impatient. Just using a light grey that I've made up with the colours that are on the palette. And just putting some marks on the table. Maybe some shadows or something off of the windows. It just breaks up that large white space that's there on the right hand side. And then darkening the shadow on this really nice and dark underneath this vase. Just putting some darks now around these flowers and stems. I will be using gouache at the end of the painting. There's no way you can do all these fine stems and that with the when you're doing the wash without fiddling about too much and everything drying and getting edges. There's some of the reflected light of the shadow on the back of the white, what would be a kind of whitish vase. Now I've dried this off and moved the film forward so you don't have to listen to the hairdryer drying the paper. just going over bits that need to be darkened up a little bit around that window area. And using another grey, dark grey mix to go over the area under the window. And it's important to make this table edge straight. Now working on the flowers last. I'll do the heads of the flowers and the shadows and then the leaves and the stems. Just doing these centres with cadmium yellow and a little bit of cadmium red. Cadmium yellow is quite an opaque colour, and ideally I'd like to paint just once with this colour so I can get on with the rest of it. Quite a lot of little fiddly bits in this part of the painting. Now using my putty eraser to remove the pencil marks. It's nice to get rid of all of these with the white flowers. And this kind of painting does look better without any pencil marks. Sometimes with landscapes I'm not too bothered, but this does come to life more, as you can see, looking quite bright. I'm actually covering up just a couple of pencil lines that I couldn't get rid of with the rubber there, but no matter. Just putting in some colour just to give some of these areas just a little bit of interest. And using some of the grey that's already on the palette with quite a lot of water to make the shadow colours on these flowers. Have to be careful not to go too dark with these shadow colours. I will be going around some of these white flowers with a dark colour just to improve the shapes where the edges are a bit straight. Went a bit dark there. I always find it better to work this way, with doing the outline first and then the flowers afterwards, and then putting in the stems. So if you do it the other way around, they kind of look a bit more like cutouts. And it looks better with the bottom of the vase and a nice straight line before the shadow starts. That's looking quite effective now with that dark shadow leading from the underneath of the vase. Doing just a little bit of work on these flower shapes, making it look more like they're petals, and just smudging it into the existing colour. And separating some of these flowers. It's a little bit abstract, this, but you do have to get some things like the flower shapes looking correct. Otherwise it draws your eye to it when you're looking at the painting. Going in at the base of the flowers now with various colours. That was a warm one, burnt sienna for a few of the stems in the centre of the mass of stems. And I'm working now with a rigger brush, which is a brush with a very fine tip. And just quickly putting in some impressions of stems, leaves. I'll be doing this for a while now, just going round improving things and adding using some darks. This is just using my greens that I normally use, Hooker's green, sap green, and putting in some darks, French ultramarine or Payne's grey to the mixture. Some of it you can't really see that well, so I will be using the gouache in a short while. And separating some of these flowers. I have to take my time a little bit with this last part, so it is just me fiddling about with areas for the next few minutes. And this is white gouache, which is a solid white paint that you can go straight over the watercolour with. Just dipping into the tube. Adding some light bits. It looks quite effective when you run it along some of the stems and then do marks into the darks surrounding the flowers. Just trying to think of where the stems might be and just doing a quick impression with broken lines. Now I'm using the gouache mixed with the green, which will be a nice solid green that you can actually see on top of the watercolour that's dried. I'm getting some real darks here with this Hooker's green. It does look quite effective gouache on this really dark background, dark blues, greys. And just tidying things up, like the tops of the stems going onto the bud, I think it would be called, where it attaches itself to the flower. Now removing the masking tape. Nice and slow, not so I don't rip the paper. I've enjoyed myself painting this today, as I think it's worked out okay. That's not a bad effort at all. Pleased with the shadows and all the bits I've added that weren't there, the window and the table. They all add to the effect of real intense light, so I'm happy with that. If you'd like me to do more of this kind of thing on the channel, just let me know and I'll do more. So until next time, goodbye.